Right, today we are making a potato cheese soup from our blog, Pressure Cooking Today. It is an amazing soup. It's a full-on dinner, and one of the things I like best about it is that the broth is kind of it's a thinner slurpy broth instead of a really thick, too thick potatoe-y broth.
Right, it's not over too rich, and the potatoes are chunky, and you've got bits of corn. And
it's just
topped
delicious.
with bacon.
We think you're really gonna love it.
I'm Barbara.
And I'm Jen.
And we're the mother-daughter team at Pressure Cooking Today.
Okay, so let's get started.
So we're gonna saute our onion first.
We'll add the butter to the pot.
If you're in a hurry, you can skip the sauteing, but it really does add a nice flavor. It softens the onion a little bit and makes it a little bit sweeter and nicer.
It only takes like a minute or two, so it's worth it, I think.
So we selected saute on the front panel, and we melted our butter, and just go ahead and stir in that onion.
I think in the recipe it says until the onions are translucent, but I just do a minute or two and that's good enough. You get a lot of the same results. I have to be careful about not stirring too much. It's my tendency to want to stir and stir and stir, but they do best if you let it sit for a little bit and then give it a stir, then let it sit again.
So this recipe calls for 2 cans of chicken broth, but we're only going to pressure cook it with 1 can.
Yep, and the reason we do that is it takes a lot longer for 2 cans to come up to pressure than it does for 1 can, and so doing it this way speeds up the cooking process and
avoids overcooking your potatoes so that they stay nice and chunky.
Yep.
So I think that looks pretty good. Should we go ahead and add the spices?
I always like to add the spices first. So we've got parsley and some salt and pepper in there.
A little bit of red pepper flakes.
We like to have everything pre-measured before we start cooking. That way you don't forget something, or if you're like me, find out you're out of something halfway through the recipe. Go ahead and add it.
Yep.
Not good.
Okay, now we're going to use a steamer basket. This steamer basket Jen really loves.
It's from Avocado. You don't have to use this particular one. There's a whole bunch. There's metal ones that fan out. There's kind of taller ones like this. I like this one because it just stands straight up, so when you've got a lot of potatoes in there, they don't kind of fall out the sides.
Right, and it has this nice handle that clicks together and out of the way. So go ahead and put the lid on.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
So we put the lid on, and then our cook time is 4 minutes at high pressure.
Yep.
So we'll come back. So we waited 5 minutes of natural pressure release, and now we're going to quick release the remaining pressure. Okay, so the float valve dropped, and now we can safely open the lid.
Make sure you turn it away, open it away from your face. It's hot. Put your little lid in the lid fins.
And go ahead and take out our potatoes.
I'm just gonna move it out of the way over here. Okay, so next we make our cornstarch slurry. Look in there, you've got that yummy broth with the onions and whatnot. It looks really great. That's gonna be used to flavor the broth of your soup. So first things off, we're gonna add a little, 2 tablespoons of cold water to 2 tablespoons cornstarch. And that just makes a nice little slurry that will thicken your soup. It's gonna look pretty thick at the beginning because we're gonna add 2 cups of half and half and another can of chicken broth. So don't worry about that. Let's see. So we got it nice and...
We like to thicken it now because when you put in the cream cheese, it has to melt. And so it'll reach a higher temperature quicker and melt more easily if you thicken it now.
I'm gonna stir while I add it, Mom.
Sure.
Okay. So you wanna stir until your cornstarch slurry is nice and smooth, because any lumps that you have in your slurry are going to go into your soup. So, and then we'll hit saute to heat that up. Your cornstarch will not thicken until it reaches a certain temperature, real close to the boiling point. So hit saute. Oh, cancel. Saute. There we go. We'll just wait a minute. So
you can tell it comes to a boil, and then we'll add the cream cheese.
Yeah, it's nice and thick. Look at that. All right.
Okay, so it's come to a boil. Now we're gonna
You can see how nice and thick it is. Like it's a lot thicker than before we added the cornstarch.
Add the cream cheese.
Why do we cube it, Mom?
We cube up the cream cheese so it melts more easily. If it's just a big block, it'll take you a lot longer.
And you really want, once again, to stir until it's smooth. Otherwise, you're going to have lumps of cream cheese in your soup, which my kids don't always mind. I think it's a lucky day when they get extra cream cheese. My daughter would just eat cream cheese by the spoonful if we let her. Also butter. She's silly, she's 2. You can tell sometimes at home I'm not a patient cook, and just wait till it's close enough. My kids really like this part because it sounds like a potion bubbling.
If you're ever concerned about something boiling too hot or too quickly, you can always lift the pan up just a little bit away from the heat source, and then that slows down the boil.
I like it on a little bit lower when we're cooking with dairy, just so it makes it less likely to burn or scorch.
All right, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to add our cup of cheese. You want to be sure to add your cheese just a little at a time. This will help it so it doesn't clump together and melts instead of getting cheese clumps.
It is really tempting to just take the whole bowl and dump it in, but it does make a difference. You save time in stirring it. So right now it's nice and thick and cheesy.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and add our second can of chicken broth.
This will really thin it out. This is my favorite part where you add the really light half and half. We've just got 2 cups of half and half here. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
It just turns it such a pretty color. And so you want to add that cheese before you add the cold, just because it stops the melting. Okay.
Okay, so
add our potatoes back
cooked hot potatoes.
And then once you add the potatoes back in, you want to stir gently. If you're vigorously stirring, you're going to take the edges off those cooked potatoes.
Add our frozen corn.
And you just, oh, sorry, Mom. And you just, after that, you just, let it heat through in the hot soup. And then on the bacon, my family really loves the bacon, so we cook extra. So we'll add most of the bacon here.
Save some for the top.
Yeah, you really want that bacon in the soup to really flavor the broth, but you also want a couple little crunchy bites on top. So give it a nice stir. This soup is my favorite the day after I make it. Like the potatoes absorb a little bit more of the flavor. It's really good. The broth thickens up just a little bit. So I often will make it the night before, especially on when I know I've got a busy day coming up, I'll make it the night before and just leave it in the fridge, and then I'll just heat up what we want either on the stove, or if we've got company, we'll just reheat it in the Instant Pot.
So should we serve some up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Oh. Scoop it up. And then, oops, it's dripping. I always like to get a little more broth. There we go. We'll garnish it with cheese and extra bacon, and it'll be delicious.
So that's our potato soup.
It's super yummy. You guys are gonna really love it. The flavors are just amazing.
You'll want to make this one all year long.
Yes, it's on our rotation all the time. It reheats really well. It's a good one.
So be sure and like and subscribe for more great videos.
And visit our website, pressurecookingtoday.com, for more great Instant Pot and pressure cooker recipes.